Defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz talking about getting the pieces on the defensive line to play the style of defense that he likes to play, as well as what to expect from that defense.
There is communication of how players are going to be used, right? And what's going to be asked of them, and, does this player fit? What do you think? Things like that. But, final determination, like I said before, this is Andrew and Kevin's and team. It's my job to coach the guys that they give us. But I'm really happy with the guys up front, the additions they've made. I think they fit us really well. I think we got a lot of interchangeable spots. We'll play a lot of guys up front, right? We're not just going to play 4 guys. We'll roll through 8, maybe even 9 guys at times, trying to keep guys fresh and keep them throwing 100-mile-an-hour fastballs. You guys will get tired of my baseball analogies, but it's a lot of D-line is a lot like throwing relief in major leagues now, right? Like these guys coming in from the pen throwing 100, 101. I watched that guy from the Guardians last night and the guy from the Orioles last night. Both of them are throwing over 100. Well, you can't unless you're Nolan Ryan. You can't do that stuff for 7, 8 innings. And same thing with D-line. The tempo that we want those guys to play. We're going to need to rotate fresh troops in. Offensive lines don't sub, but we can keep the pressure on those guys, and we can play to a high standard with that depth, and that's an important part of what we do.
And again, Cory, the thing that you like hearing, they want to be aggressive. You don't want to play 8, 9 guys unless you plan on just getting after it and being aggressive. And there wasn't an identity to the Browns' defense the last couple of years. There just wasn't.
True, and there wasn't a deep stable of bodies. So, we were playing practice squad guys, like literally practice squad guys were coming up and playing snaps on Sundays, like Roderick Perry last year. Like that's a reality of where the room was a year ago, and Tommy Togiai, like he's a 4th-round pick, but there's not yet reason to believe that he might not be one of the worst defensive tackles in the NFL currently. Like, just based on his performance on the field. And that's not meant to throw anything at him, but that's the reality of the situation. But they go out and they add Dalvin Tomlinson. They go out and they draft Siaki Ika, 2 guys that are roster locks. And I think they brought in Tristan Hill and Maurice Hurst to add a spirit of competition in that room. Again, if you look at the amount of guaranteed money those 2 guys got, it wasn't a lot. So I don't think those guys are locks to make the roster. But what they're going to do is they're going to force Jordan Elliott. They're going to force Tommy Togiai. They're going to force Perrion Winfrey to work for snaps, to work to make the roster. And I think that's kind of a healthy thing that you want to breed. Again, Mo Hurst has been really good when he's been healthy. But again, he had that heart condition coming out of Michigan, and he's had some injury history as well since he's been in the league. So, and then Tristan Hill, he's still young. He's been up and down, but he's still young. But again, the back end of that room is really good now. And then speaking of defensive ends, you go out, you get Za'Darius Smith. You go out and you get Okoronkwo. Like those are 2 dudes who are going to play a lot of snaps. You still have Alex Wright, who I think is probably the only guy on the roster who has the ability to play inside and out consistently. So I think there's a role for him. Elijah McGuire, they're probably going to ease him in where he's not going to play a ton of snaps early on, but that's a guy who could see a workload by midseason, by the end of the year. So they went out and they really revamped their defensive line, and it's for what Jim Schwartz says. He wants refreshed bodies on the field all the time. So yeah, I love what they've done up front.
I agree with you. And the unstated part of it is if you're playing less snaps, you don't get as beat up. When you're fatigued, you're more likely to get injured. So it keeps you healthier so you can play more.